You're listening to The Paul Higgins Show, where ambitious tech consultants come to unlock their potential. After 18 years as a global leader, I launched several businesses, culminating in a successful exit. I'm sharing what I learned, plus what's working now from mentoring tech consultants. You will hear leaders within our industry to help you build a business you love that allows you to do what you want. If you are looking for immediate cash flow wins to fuel your growth, go to our free ebook at paulhigginsmentoring.com/roadmap. You have grown your tech consulting business and you're wearing way too many hats. And one of those happens to be sales. Hello, this is Paul Higgins and welcome to the Paul Higgins Show, episode number 546. In today's podcast, I have Rory Galvin from Navirum about when to hire your first salesperson and what it takes to scale your business through the quality of your people. Rory is the founder and CEO of Navirum, a high-growth Salesforce consulting company serving clients across the globe. Before setting up the business, Rory spent over 5 years in the financial services division of Salesforce, and he really talks about what he learned there and how he has applied that to his business. And he helped a broad range of traditional banks and insurance companies, as well as new innovative fintech companies to reach their goals using Salesforce. Before joining Salesforce, Rory spent 7 years working in consulting for Accenture and Merrill Lynch and was an analyst at that bank. Rory holds a BA in ICT, computer science, and an MBA at the Trinity College in Dublin. Rory is a certified Salesforce administrator, a CTA. He also has accreditation in Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, and Salesforce Trailhead Ranger. And if you'd like to see more of Rory, other than just hearing his voice here, go to Paul Higgins Mentoring, our YouTube channel. So now what I'll do is hand you over to Rory Galvin from Navirum.com. Great to have you here, Rory.
Great to be here, Paul.
Yeah, well, I know we've spoken a few times, and each time you remind me of the fantastic time spent by me and my family in Ireland. But I know you don't live in Ireland anymore. As I said in the introduction, you now live in Canada, but I do love your home country. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. We're here to talk about your company. And what we're going to kick off with is your ideal clients are and what problems you love to solve for them.
Absolutely. Yeah, sounds good. Thanks for the intros. As I say, the accents from the East Coast, but the East Coast of Canada these days, or the United States. Hailing from Dublin originally, but live in Montreal now with my families. Been here for just over 6 years. You know, I give it the six year sort of mark there-ish. But yeah, so Navirum, company I started not too long after it kind of got here, basically. And we're kind of a specialist boutique financial services Salesforce consultancy. And in terms of our ideal client right now, I guess anybody who's got a decent budget and a vision for where they want to go with their company is definitely a good starting point. But generally speaking, we kind of cater to sort of the mid-market of wealth management and investment management in North America. That's those two sub-verticals will be our area of specialization.
Right. And, we're recording this near the middle of 2024. Are you finding that those budgets are drying up a little? Or are they still there?
I think for us, probably the last big sort of drop in demand, there's been two in the past few years. The first one was straight after COVID. We noticed like the whole economy sort of just went into neutral for about a month, and then it sort of just went back into gear after that. And I would say the next big drop after that was around 2022, when interest rates were starting to climb back up again. Sort of the fall of that year, we definitely saw a lot of decisions were being paused around that. But today, I would say things are definitely going well. I wouldn't say it's like a record-breaking year or anything so far, but there's still strong demand out there for sure.
Yeah, great. And what are some of the problems that these financial institutions have that you solve?
Yeah, well, I think many of them are just the problems are really trying to deliver. If we take the kind of wealth management industry, it really is trying to deliver the best possible experience they can to their clients and trying to be as productive as they can as companies internally. They are juggling regulatory changes and regulations as well, which we have to help them out with. And really, trying to connect the dots within their organization is a continued problem. Where like we might be implementing Salesforce and we might be integrating it with a custodian or another financial institution to a few different reasons. It's generally that project is happening alongside multiple other projects at the same time. They're rolling out a new portfolio management system, a new financial planning system. They're trying to upgrade their company around recent changes in compliance. These projects don't happen in isolation, so it's the sum of the parts of all those projects, I think, that a lot of our customers are challenged with, not one on an individual basis. So we try to help them holistically with a lot of those individual projects as well as the Salesforce stuff.
Yeah, and we mentioned in the intro that you are, multi-cloud. Is there any particular clouds that you tend to find more in wealth management than others?
Well, definitely financial services cloud is the
Yeah.
big one right now. It started off probably about, I think historically, probably about 10 years ago, the first betas of it started to emerge. But, that's where the big competitive advantage is for Salesforce right now, because they're just have a lot of use cases and functionality in there that is really suited to the industry. And they're making like a lot of smart integrations as well with a lot of the key partners in the ecosystem as well. So, the sum of the parts, basically are driving a lot of value for our customers. The trend has flipped, definitely from used to be kind of vanilla sales and service cloud back in the day, but now the big demand is around financial services cloud. As well as other things as well, like, the marketing cloud and experience cloud and integrations as well, like MuleSoft. Certainly those are the kind of dominant ones that we see in the sort of the mid-market.
Great. And, as I said in the intro, you came from a corporate background yourself, or
Mm-hmm.
that industry,
Mm-hmm.
Century Merrill Lynch. And then in 2012, you decided to go across to Salesforce. What was the driver
Mm-hmm.
of moving across one industry into an agnostic?
That's a great question. I think I actually had a small consulting company in my 20s in London, which sort of a specialist niche that was actually doing pretty well. And I just really wanted to take some time out to go and go back and finish my studies, go back and do a master's. And during that time, I came across Salesforce. Somebody introduced to me, and I did an interview, and it was really kind of such a breath of fresh air compared to the corporate worlds before. Like I just could hardly believe, that this was work really, and you're whisked off from Dublin to San Francisco, and you're really kind of thrown into the kind of the elite sort of software world there, software sales and marketing. And I just felt like I was learning so much in that like it was a really good opportunity. Even if I did it for a year or two, I was going to learn a huge amount. I really kind of went in there and I loved the people I was working with. I loved the cut and thrust of it. It was just a fun environment. So, really was laughing and joking, and, I still have great colleagues from my time in there. Did that for 7 years, and it was kind of just all sort of like based on me trying something out. And I was in banking before then. I was like in the sort of the middle of the Merrill Lynch bank there, and before it was taken over by Bank of America. So really it was a very different world and a different environment. So it just sort of panned out that way. But yeah, it was a good decision, I think.
Yeah, great. And in 2018, you decided to go back, I suppose, from where you started, back into your own consulting. And, once again, what was the key
Yeah.
driver of making that change?
Well, I always sort of felt like with the whole, I always wanted to keep or go back to running my own business and have my own company or companies. It's just something that like I was just very passionate about from a young age as a child, and I really think that like for leaders to succeed in a company, they really needed to have that kind of sales and marketing training and background. I think it's a huge advantage. Like I think product and service is really important, but you really need to know how to grow a company. And I felt like even though I kind of probably was a decent, I'd make a decent stab at it, like I really felt like I didn't really know what I didn't know. I think in the back of my mind, I wanted to go and start my own thing properly this time, and hire individuals and build up a business. When 2018 came along, like my wife got a job, a dream job in Canada, and we moved the family over. And I just had this window of time to go and start a company. Probably it's not going to come along again anytime soon, where there was a break in my career and I had a bit of downtime where I could just get the thing started. And I just threw the kitchen sink at it, basically, literally just everything I had to get it up and running. over sort of a couple of years of a lot of hard work and long hours and stuff like that, it started to build up a reputation and a client base, and that's kind of really where it started.
Yeah.
So it was
So
that kind of gap in coming over where I had the opportunity to do that.
yeah, and I'm assuming, and I know I shouldn't assume anything, so I'll ask you,
Mm.
your network, like you moved to a completely new country. Did that mean that you didn't really have a network to rely upon to kick the business off?
Yeah, I mean, I really had to start it from scratch. Like, I mean, I didn't really, I had my network from back in Ireland, and I had a few people that made some introductions, and I just had to kind of go back out there and sort of start it all over again. Like, I did have some connections in the Salesforce world, but I really didn't know anybody in the offices in Montreal or Toronto, and I had to just really just get in there and just start meeting people and start putting myself out there. So I just really that's kind of started from pretty much from nothing, and that is a really important point. Like, it is really your network and your connections are super important in any economy, and it takes time to build those up. No matter how good you are, no, you have to build that up, and that just takes. You have to just practice that day in, day out. And one day you find yourself, you've got, big network, but it doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah, and if you go back to Salesforce, and
Mm.
like you said, one of the key things you got was sales and marketing. So
Yeah.
describe the training? Was there training systematic within Salesforce to build those skills within you, or was it a little bit more on the job? Sort of, describe how you built those sales and marketing skills at Salesforce.
Yeah, well, I mean, they do have a training program in there, which are effective. You have to go through like a kind of pretty much equivalent of like a 6 month sort of boot camp sort of thing where they take you back to basics and build you back up. Have like, amazing resources in there to qualify deals, how to build your pipeline, how to close deals, how to build relationships with customers, how to track all of that in the CRM. Obviously, it's just kind of world class SaaS sales or cloud software sales basically that you're taught. Like, and it all comes down from like Mark Benioff, and I probably he's a master marketeer and salesman himself, and then the backdrop of like Larry Ellison and Oracle and that history as well, and lots of other areas. And you really kind of have a sense for that. Like, the way you're being taught here is that you're being taught by the cream of the crop and how to sell. And I always felt like that. And I always felt like the managers and the account executives on my team that I worked alongside in Dublin were world class. Still, like the stories and the adventures that we went on, around UK and Ireland. I mean, we could write books on it, and you wouldn't, it's just really exciting and fun. I mean, back then, Salesforce, when I joined, it was like employee number 3001 or something. Like, it was a tiny company. The company was trying to break into the European market back then. There was a Dublin office, but there was no offices, Paris or Frankfurt, or there's barely one even in the UK at that point. There was an office in Staines out in the suburbs, and that was pretty much it. And us and the team, we sort of grew that business in Europe, and it really kind of came down to the quality of the product and the people that were selling. And a lot of them had come from, the likes of Dell and Oracle and other big US software and hardware companies, and they really knew how to do it. And I learned so much from being alongside them, seeing what they were doing and hearing their thinking and stuff. And I was very fortunate to do that when I was in there.
Right. And how transferable were the skills learnt there into going back in 2018 into your own company? Were they directly transferable, or were there's, some differences,
Um,
or were you selling to similar people given the fact that you were in the same industry with Salesforce?
yeah, I mean, yeah, for sure. I mean, like a lot of it is transferable, but I think when you're selling professional services, it's probably slightly different in subtle ways. But
Yeah.
definitely, I mean, I think really the key thing, in Salesforce is because there's so many referrals that you get. It's really about how well you get on with the people in Salesforce, and the relationships that you build in there is super important. So I think having kind of come from there and understanding the culture and stuff that is still very much this, very similar to what it was back then today, like, I think has been a big advantage. That's really helped our success over the years.
Yeah. And when going for a client, does having Salesforce on your resume, does that, how does that impact their decision?
I think a lot of it in B2B, like when somebody refers you in as a professional, like whether you're an IT consultant or a lawyer or an accountant, like the referral is based on sort of trust. And I think that, like, once you kind of get their trust, I don't think they necessarily look at your CV so much. They kind of, like, they're kind of thinking more like, okay, Salesforce is recommending these guys, and they're an accredited partner, and they've got certain, they're a certain tier in the system there. They tend to trust you. Like thankfully haven't had anyone kind of look at my resume, go, oh God, he used to work in there. Like, thankfully it hasn't come to that.
Yeah. Well, that's I suppose, look, I know for me personally, if I look back through and if I was sitting on the other side and I saw someone that had worked within the company for 5 years, I think that would
Yeah.
be an advantage, right? From my
Yeah, for
side.
sure.
Yeah, so that's great. And so since 2018, I think
Mhm.
3 years in, you hired a salesperson. So I'm assuming you were doing the sales in the first 3 years. Why the decision to hire a salesperson at 3 or 3.5 years into the journey?
Yeah, well, I think really for us, really, it was just about scale. And I think if you're the founder of the company, everything sort of channels through you, and you've only got a certain amount of hours in the day. It was just kind of just part of our growth, and just kind of handing that over to somebody else who had experience. It was really just about capacity. I think sales it really is like it's a numbers game at the end of the day. Like, and the more full-time person working on the job, getting X amount of meetings per month, translates into a certain amount of sales in our world. So really, to grow and to scale, we had to find somebody to take that over for us.
Right. So it was more
Yeah.
activity driven than you didn't have a certain revenue number that once you hit that, you knew you had to get someone in. It was more activity based, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, more activity based for sure. And also, I think that you need somebody to kind of help build those relationships with clients as well. Again, it comes down to capacity. Like, and if you're the founder, obviously you're the main sales guy at the start, but like gets to a point where you have to hand that over to somebody else to take those calls and meetings day to day, otherwise you just miss opportunities.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
how did you source that person? Take us through a little bit how you sourced your first
Yeah.
sales hire.
We went through a recruiting process using Indeed, I think was the main. We had some referrals ourselves for some people to look at. So, it was a mixture. We built up like a sort of like pipeline of people to interview, and we found somebody that was a good fit.
Yeah, great. And their background. So what was their background? Were they from the same industry, a different industry?
Yes, this software industry and a sort of enterprise sales background. Yeah.
Yeah, great. And as far as you letting go of sales, was that easy or hard for you to do that?
I think it was, yeah, probably a little bit difficult, I think, initially, but like, it's a sort of a necessary thing that you have to do. And in any company, you have to hand it over to somebody else at some point. It was like anything, like you don't want to let go, but you're better off in the long run just, delegating it to somebody else, just them taking a step back and looking at the process and seeing how we can improve it from there.
Right. And is that person still with the business?
They're not with the person right now, but we are actively recruiting, a new head of sales or head of business development for the company. So a lot of the activities that perhaps were done originally are spread out amongst the team in a sort of a different sort of way now. So in terms of like our marketing, right now has been done by Lavinia, and we have people helping internally, our consultants, with the estimation process and out meeting, running a lot of events and speaking at a lot of events as well. So that right now, that's how we sort of managed to scale it up and increase our capacity. But we're just had a meeting this morning with Josh about it, that we are looking to hire a new person in, and there are nuances and sort of slight differences to being a head of sales in a professional services company. And I think we've kind of learned a huge amount about like what our partners want and our client want in terms of that experience. And, I think we're looking forward to getting somebody in who's got the right background and the right experience to kind of take us to the next level. So I'm certainly looking forward to getting a few hours back in my day as well on that front also. So.
Yeah, definitely. And what mix from source leads through your partner being Salesforce versus self-generated, what would that mix be?
It's interesting, like now, like originally a huge amount of it, like, 90% would have been from Salesforce, but over the past few years, that number has actually shrunk down by a considerable amount. A lot of our business now is actually repeat business, which is a good trend to see. Actually, a big, a big percentage of our pipeline is coming from repeat customers who come back and do, 3, 4, 5 phases. And I think our team has really matured over the past couple of years, and a big shout out to them. They really have developed a depth of understanding around what's important on these engagements and what's going to work and what's not going to work. We also get referrals from other members of the ecosystem as well, from our other partners, which are kind of other software companies out there under the kind of Salesforce umbrella, but also other financial services companies as well.
Yeah, and I think that's a really key point, because I know that most people, when we talk sales, we think new business, right? But I think it's really important to look at, how do I gain more from the people that know me the best, which is my existing customers.
Exactly.
And I know when I first start with someone, that's where I always look first, because there's often money sitting there, and then that can fund other marketing activities and other sales activities. And when this new person comes on, will they be across both account management and new business, or will you just focus them on one area in particular?
I think they're probably, like any sort of new person coming into a new role, they're going to be doing a bit of everything. But I think in what we do in consulting, it is that bit different to selling like software licenses to a degree. Like it is very consultative.
Yes.
It's very much very much pre-salesy, sort of like there's a lot of designing solution architectures and understanding constraints around projects and building confidence. And it's a very different sale, like in terms of like the deals tend to sort of nearly close themselves to a degree.
Yes.
But you have to have the right sort of background and experience, and you have to have the right relationships with your partners as well to kind of partner with them on the deal as well. So you need somebody who's really passionate about building these solutions and passionate about the products and the industry that we work in. And I think that really comes across, like it's nearly like 50% passion, I think, at the end of the day, and enthusiasm. I think that really building the right relationships with our partners, in Salesforce is really important, but also other companies that we work with as well, and other financial institutions that we work with as well. Like you have to have that credibility. I think the person we hire next will definitely have to have a blend of the financial services background, the business development background, and then the project background with Salesforce as well.
Yeah, great. Well, I just reminded with episode 546, we're talking to Rory Galvin from Navirum, and that's navium.com, in case you can't understand an Irish and an Australian accent if you're in America. You building the team, and you gave a shout out to your team, which obviously they've been a great support given the growth you've had since 2018. But you said you tried some offshore in India, and it didn't quite pan out the way you wanted. What was sort of your key learnings from that?
Yeah, I mean, we've tried it out, a few different angles, and I think there's a tremendous depth of technical talent in India, and many of our team members from are in Canadian, and they're from India originally. But I think having that sort of offshore sort of setup. Somebody once said to me once, like, it really is, you need to set it up like in sort of nerdy. It needs to be as sort of structured as possible. Somebody who is built a very successful software company. He's like, really needs to be built nearly like procedural from the top down, and it needs to be very clear to your staff around what's happening, because if you're not there the whole time, the same time zone to supervise, those communications get lost. And if you're not face to face, there's only so much zooming and slacking you can do to kind of bridge that. I think that like to have a level of maturity to do that, to make it work effectively. And I think like the big consultancies like the Accentures and the Deloittes do that very well, because they've invested millions, hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars in these facilities with recruitment. It's very competitive as well, but it has to be done properly. Like this is an asset to your company, whether it's onshore or offshore, and it needs to be done in taken seriously when it's being done. I don't think you can't like just hire somebody and hope that it's going to work. Like it needs to be done. So that's our big takeaway. I would absolutely love to go back and build out like a development center, whether it's in India or somewhere else, like offshore. I think it'll be a tremendous asset to the company, but it needs to be done right, and I don't think you can dabble. That's kind of my experience there.
Yeah, so true. And I think if you're a regular listening to the show, I ran an outsourcing company for 5 years, and certainly that was my experience as well. If it, it's like most things in life, it looks too good to be true, it is. And you still got to put the upfront work to then get the downstream benefits. So totally agree. And I know that you've got different model of remuneration to support the team. So just tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the compensation for the team, I wouldn't say it's any different, really. I think really it comes down to the performance of each individual, the performance of our company, the whole. That's kind of how we base it. So it's a combination of salary and bonus for most of our staff, and benefits as well. So, got health benefits for all of our full-time staff, all of our salaried staff. So, and our team all pretty much work remotely, although we come in and out of the various hubs in North America as well. So I'm actually I'm flying to Toronto tonight. Yeah, we've got a series of meetings over the next 3 days with Salesforce and other partners that we work with, and customers. And some of the team are going to be there with me during that, and they're in the GTA, so the Greater Toronto area, and they come in for those meetings, and then they kind of go back home then afterwards. So I think that works really well. I think our team really like that flexibility. And I think we're like, our team are our most important asset, like at the end of the day, to the company. So we try to be as fair as possible. We've had our first mat leave person who went on Friday, and she's gone for a year. We've had people who've had to go back for family emergencies and work remotely for a couple of months. We've had people who haven't got back home after COVID. They want to do an extended period over Christmas holiday, for example. So we've tried to facilitate that. So we really try to give the time to our staff, especially around family, and especially around kind of these important life events that they're having, as well as the day-to-day flexibility of working from home. But I think we try to bridge that as much as we can with technology, with Zoom and Slack and many other channels that we have. But we try to get together as often as we can as well.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I envy you, because my team that are will edit and follow this, is I haven't had the chance to meet them in person at the moment. It's amazing how much you can build a rapport over Zoom, but there's nothing like being in person, as
Absolutely,
you said.
100%.
So what we're going to do now is just pause for a moment to thank our sponsors, and then we'll come back to the rapid fire round. Ever spotted your dream client on LinkedIn only to find yourself bogged down in tedious data transfer at the expense of building that critical relationship? Say goodbye to manual tasks and hello to efficiency with Surfy, S-U-R-F-E. Surfy transforms you from a virtual assistant into a sales pro by seamlessly capturing, syncing, and enriching contacts from LinkedIn into your preferred sales platform, be it Salesforce, HubSpot, Pipedrive, Copper, or even Google Sheets, all in one single click. Imagine reclaiming those precious hours spent on data entry and redirecting them towards nurturing valuable connections and closing deals, which we all love to do. With Surfy, it's not just a dream, it's your new reality. Ready to invest your sales time where it truly matters? Try Surfy today by visiting our resource page at paulhigginsmentoring.com/resources and clicking on Surfy. Elevate your sales game with Surfy, because your success starts after the click. Excellent. So rapid fire. So that means I'm going to ask you 4 questions, Rory, and get rapid replies. Are you ready for that?
Ready as I can be.
All right. Beautiful. So the first one is, what are some of the daily habits that you do to drive Navirum?
I think one of the daily habits we have as a team is our daily stand-up, which is where we all post for the day what we're what's in our calendars, and what our objectives are, and what we plan to do today, and what we accomplished yesterday. And that's one of Josh's on our team, who's our VP of Tech, and big shout out to him for bringing that into the team.
Fantastic. And where do you go to learn more about how to scale the business?
Well, I listen to this podcast, obviously, Paul. That's a big part of it. But I also, I'm avid podcast listener as well. So a multitude of sources, books as well. In terms of individual scale, I take it from a blend of sources. I don't think there's one in particular, but podcasts, and download as many ebooks as well, and on Audible and that sort of thing as well. And when I'm flying as well, I try to use my Kindle to read that on my phone also, to try and catch up on those books when I can.
Yeah, brilliant. And the next one is, if I could grant you one wish for Navirum, what would that be?
I think for us to grow into and become a recognized household name for our expertise in financial services technology consulting, I think would be a great thing, and to be known for having like a caliber and depth of experts in that field. I think we're trying to build a good, high quality company here. I think that's the ultimate goal for Navirum. So if somebody taps me on the shoulder and recognizes me for that one day, I'll be happy.
Yeah, well, given what you've done in 4 years, I'm sure you're well on the way to that. And the last one is, what do you know now that when you started Navirum in 2018, you wish you had have known?
Probably what I thought when I started the company, that I think that the quality of your company comes down to the quality of your team at the end of the day, and how you treat your team is how they'll treat your customers.
Yes.
I think that's something you have to remind yourself every single day, that's really, really important. We're lucky to have a really strong team in Navirum, and it's growing in strength every day. So I think you can't ever not wake up in the morning, be thankful for those who come and decide to work for you and give their time. So people are our power for sure.
Yeah, and so you can find out more about Rory at navirum.com, and the links will be in the show notes. You can also find out more about him on his LinkedIn, and I'll mention that in the outro as well. But Rory, thanks a lot for coming on today. I think, you downplay a little your success and how far you've come in the 4 years. Yeah, you've done an incredible job, and thanks for sharing your wisdom on today's podcast.
Appreciate it, Paul. Thank you.
What a great interview with Rory. And I really like how he talked about his journey of, going from his own business into large corporate, then into Salesforce, then back. So he's got loads of experience to share there. Also how he hired his first salesperson, the importance of network, and then how he cultivates a great culture there and his people. Reach out to Rory on LinkedIn. Say you heard him here on the Paul Higgins Show, episode 546, and also ask him any questions. Also, if you know some of your peers could benefit from this, please send it to them. That's how our show grows, I should say, based on you referring others to it. You can watch the episode, as I said, at Paul Higgins Mentoring. That's our YouTube channel. And I'll see you next time on the Paul Higgins Show. Time for action. Let me know what you implemented from the show. I promise to respond. Plus, get the Tech Consultants Roadmap at paulhigginsmentoring.com/roadmap.